Hello, my name is Mary Harelkin Bishop, and I am an author. I am the author of the books that you see here. I'm most well known for the Tunnels of time travel series about Andrea and Vance in the tunnels of Moose Jaw in the 1920s. Today, I thought what I would do is talk to you about Next Stop Chicago and talk to you about how a book actually becomes a book. Have you ever thought about that? I think somewhere in my mind, when I was little, I probably thought that little elves came and printed each little page and then stuck glue here and glued them down. Do you think that's what happens? No, I don't think so either. I'll tell you what does happen though. I was very lucky and I got to go to the printing place to see how this book was made into a book. The first thing that happens, of course, is an author like myself has to get a really good idea. And so for me, what happens is I have a great idea in my head and I think about it for a long time. And then when it's ready to write, I write it right into my computer. And then the next important step that happens is that it has to get edited. And for this particular book, we actually took 8 months to edit this book. Does that sound like a long time? That is a long time. But for me, I always want to show you my very best work. And so spending 8 months to do it is just what an author does. It was a special process that we used for this book, though, because we did something that we called group editing. So 3 of us edited this book, and we would contact each other ahead of time, and we'd say, okay, when we get together next week, we are going to talk about Chapter 5. So all of us would read Chapter 5, and we would circle the parts or mark the parts that we thought needed some work on them, whether it was some grammar things that needed to happen, or maybe it was some spelling things, or maybe it was just making things a little more clear. And so the 3 of us would mark that, and then we'd all come together and we'd work page by page looking and talking about what needed to change in the book. And then I'd have to go back to the computer and fix those things. One time, we actually took a whole hour to decide whether or not to put one comma in one sentence, whether to put it in or leave it out. Have you ever had a conversation for an hour about a comma? Probably not. So once that whole editing process is done, then the book has to be sent digitally. So the file has to be sent to the printing place. The book goes to the printing place, and then the printer has to figure out how to actually make the book into a book. So what happens is they have a program which puts all the pages of the book onto huge pieces of paper like this. There are actually 16 pages of Next Stop Chicago on this one big piece of paper. And the funny thing for me is the pages are not even in order, which I do not understand. But I'll show you here. This is page 206, and it is right beside 199. Which is right beside 210, which is right beside 195. So this makes no sense to me, but somehow they figure it out. The lines you see here on the bottom have to do with the ink. It helps the people who are running the printing presses know if the colors and the darkness of the ink is right. So these huge pieces of paper go through a big printing press like this and come out on the other side. And then another machine has to fold this paper. I don't know if you can see in the paper, there you can see, those holes you can see they're put in there are called perforations, and they're already in the paper. And the reason they're there is because as the paper gets folded, air can sometimes get trapped in the paper, and that makes the paper fold crooked. Have you ever been trying to fold a piece of paper that just would not fold straight? Doesn't that drive you crazy? It drives me crazy. So you would have to get some perforations or holes put into your paper, and it would help you. But as a machine, paper, especially for a book, has to be folded correctly, because if the paper folded crooked and then they went to chop off to make the shape of a book, some of the words would get chopped off. So of course we know that the pages have to be folded exactly like this. So all these bits of the book get printed and folded into little bundles like this, and then they get stuck or stacked in little, almost like little bins along a conveyor belt. So there's a big conveyor belt that runs along the bottom, These little stacks are in these little bins along it. At the same time that this is happening, other things are happening. So somebody decides what the picture on the cover of the book is going to look like. In this case, somebody asked Denise Collette, an artist, to paint a picture. And so she painted the picture, and then someone else took the picture and took a photograph of it, and that went into a program to help design the cover. So that's what you're seeing here, the front cover and the back cover of the book. So somebody has to figure out where the title of the book is going to go, where my name is going to go, what kind of blurb or little thing we'd say on the back of the book so that people want to pick it up and read it. Of course, you need this thing. This is called an ISBN, the publisher. And so somebody designs all this, and then this gets printed off on what is called cardstock. So once this is printed off, it comes along the bottom of the conveyor belt like this, and the very first place it stops is a huge vat of glue. I've never seen such a big vat of glue, and it's hot glue, and it gets dribbled out down the center of this piece of paper, right where the spine is. And then, once the glue is there, all these little sections get dropped off as this goes down the conveyor belt to get another section and another section and another section until you get the whole book right there. Another machine comes and folds that paper on, and then, do you have a book? Well, it looks like a book, but remember how these pages were all folded together? This mock-up or copy of a book still has the pages folded together. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. See how they're all stuck together here? So if you were trying to read this book, you wouldn't be able to. So the last job that has to happen is, it's like a giant saw that comes and it zips off the top, zips off the side, zips off the bottom, and then, do you have a book? Well, it looks like a book, and it is a book, but sometimes mistakes happen. Have you ever seen a mistake in a book? Here's a really cool mistake in this book. Can you see that here's the front cover right side up, and then when you open that first page, can you see that that's upside down? And the whole first section of this book, right up until page 4, is upside down. There you go. Now you can see one page is right side up and one page is right side down. One page is right side up and one page is upside down. So that is how a book is actually made into a book. Join me again and we'll talk about other exciting things and little bits of trivia. I'll do some read alouds from my favorite parts of my books. Happy reading and talk to you soon.